Absolutely. Welcome back to the best track of the conference, B. Right, so you know this, so please like us, please comment. It's really, really important, really important. We would love to get your opinion. So I'm happy to continue introductions of really thought-provocative topic, which is master data management. I think I already made this joke the first day saying that this was my idea when I came to this wonderful event 5-6 years ago. I came with the topic that master data is dead and we need to do something, right? So 5 years later, we having this discussion. And if you look at the agenda, there are so many topics about master data, right? So I'm definitely seeing one big topic is like, who is the CDO, right? And you see the variation sessions. And then the second big one is like, what is master? Is it still alive? Is it dead? And what we need to do, right? So I'm really happy to introduce Vikas. So Vikas is a chief solution advisor with SAP. So many of you who have been implementing master data know that SAP has a really major platform in master data management. All providers right now are really putting a lot of thinking is what is the future of master data management, right? Who is the best? And Vikram actually can, Vikas, I'm really sorry, Vikas can actually help us to demystify, right? And put some thoughts into how SAP is thinking about the future, what you see the challenges are, and also have a conversation, right? So if you online, joining us virtually with, which I'm sure there are probably 200 people virtually. Please put your questions on the chat. If you're in the room, you also can put your question in the chat, or you can endorse somebody's question if you like it, right? So I have Kevin, who is doing amazing job helping to moderate Q&A discussion, right? So welcome, Vikas, and let's go.
Yep. Thank you very much, Lena. So first and foremost, I'm not going to provide any demos or whatsoever. So it's going to be more of a perspective, what you will hear from us from SAP's point of view, but also from a thought leadership point of view, where we think the industry is heading and what are the trends happening. This is what I'm going to be focusing on. Yeah, and happy to take on more questions, maybe even after the call or after this discussion, right? So that said, let's go on to the next one quickly. So it was more of a bold statement that is the future of master data management dead or alive. And of course, you know, hopefully by the end of the session, you should see that yes, it is very much alive. A lot of companies are investing on master data management, but there are a lot of challenges. There are a lot of trends happening, which is what we are going to touch on. Yeah. All right, so with that said, so what are the trends which are, I mean, I'm going to start with what are the trends which are fueling this whole digital transformation, right? So the IoT, ML, augmented reality, blockchain, cloud computing is a big one, right? Social, mobile, there was some question related to social stuff also. That said, the core is that, you know, you have been having in human touch, but have been moved over to automated intelligent operations. That doesn't mean human touch has gone away, right? So the complexity is more that you have to deal with the human touch, but also deal with automation, and how do you deal with automation, right? Same thing from a big data analytics point of view, that big data is already there, but has the Excel files gone away? No, but it's become more complicated that people are trying to pull out more data into the Excel file and trying to manage, right? And that leads us back into the discussion about that master data, right? And then now on top of it, everybody wants to move over to cloud. We are moving to the cloud, customers are moving to the cloud, but on-premise is still not going away. So that's where the challenges are starting to maybe exponentially increase. And within that aspect, all of these challenges now are impacting the lines of businesses. And everyone who you see are trying to work on saying, okay, let's solve the problem of all of this and of all of this with machine learning, right? So be it R&D, marketing, sales, service support, just pick, let's an example as a sales, right? They want to be able to say, well, let's automate the upsell and cross-sell recommendation, right? So they will create a machine learning algorithm to create automated sales content based on profiling. Guess what? You need customer master You need product master. You need to have upsell of the product master, the single version of the truth. You need to get to that. You need to make sure that the customer could be also a prospect, right, for you to do the sales. So guess what? Master data is getting impacted in every one of those scenarios. You pick from an HR point of view, employees, right? Employees could be also your business partners, because many times when you pay, companies pay, they make employees as business partners, right? And the same thing related to financials aspects. When you have to do the cash applications, it's all about the cost center, profit centers, the general ledger hierarchies. So every line of business has an impact to the master data, and that digital transformation is exponentially expanding that challenges, right? So that's the biggest challenge you face. Now and this is what SAP thinks from that point of view. Now, if you look from that master data management now from a digital world, what do you need to solve those challenges? You need master data which is intelligent, which is agile, and which helps you to comply the processes. The compliance has become a major important thing, right? It is not GDPR. It is also CCPA in California. It is in the Canada, right? The data cannot leave Egyptian government area, right? So you have to make sure that you are complying for every region, every area, right? So it has to comply in that agility, right? Automation, of course, yeah, you need to have that automation. Fast scaling MDM solutions, so which means you need to now start thinking about those silos, and I'll use the word silo for a minute, and again, it's a big thing. It could cause a challenge, but I'll still use that right now, yeah? Fast scaling MDM solution, right? So net, you need modular, specialized applications in each of your lines of business, your processes, to solve your business problem. At the end of the day, it's all about business outcome, right? The previous slide which I showed you, it's all about your business outcome for your business processes, for your lines of businesses. What are you trying to do to solve that master data? And then master data management is very much alive, because it is the fundamental for your business process, right? Now, you need to be able to scale those efficient business processes, right? So it needs to scale across your enterprise, right? So what are the key drivers? It's the automation. It is the efficiency which you need to target. And you need to, again, focus on the business outcome and the master data quality, right? So the business outcome is the core to it, to any of those aspects where you will need to drive that master data management. Now that said, this is, I'm going to just build it out. This is in the minds, this master data management is very much in the minds of the head of the BI, which has been traditional, right? So they want to have a single source of the truth, right? So that has not gone away. The same thing, if you are a process-driven leader, you want to make sure that from a process point of view, they want to have that governance process, right? These have not changed. This has been the trend and the tradition, right, for the master data management. And then especially when you're doing the ERP transformation, yeah, their focus is master data management. Just I can tell you for a fact, from an SAP perspective, that is the core to the foundation. You cannot even go live if your master data quality is bad for your ERP transformation. That's the core to the foundation, right? So that is on the number one issue on the minds of the head of the master data from SAP point of view. And then, of course, everybody's talking about the data strategy, the chief data officers, where they want to own the data strategy. But then again, when they run these automation, the machine learning, AI, ML stuff, the core investment which goes in, besides the integration, because they want to bring in all the data, is the master data quality, right? You want to do reinforced learning, you want to do any of those work, you have to have that master data pristine and clean and set up, right? So they want to focus about the flexibility, right? How easy they can bring in that data quality, be flexible to be able to manage that master data, right? So now that said, let me go step back for a minute. What has been there as a foundation from a master data portfolio point of view in general, from the industry point of view, and then what are the trends, yeah? So the first has been the consolidation style, like the typical use case, right? It's table stakes, right? You want to consolidate all your master data per domain, bring in that golden record, create the best record, and be able to push it out to your MDM applications or to your data lake or your data hub or your data warehouse to do your BI analytical reportings, right? So that has been the table stakes. Yes, there are some vendors who are doing and saying, well, let me put in machine learning to do a best record matching. Like, so what, right? Is it not going to create a problem or a challenge? How much from a data stewardship point of view, right? So think from an end-to-end point of view. What is the final business outcome? What are you trying to do, right? Achieve, right? Does that provide a value, right? The next one was the central MDM. So it was basically moving from left to right, right? Don't take literally. But the first use case scenario provided, well, I'm consolidated, I'm done. The bad data remains the bad data, but I still consolidate it, right? And then on the right side, you had the central MDM style, where you wanted to govern and create a one single record. Everybody enters the data in one place and be able to basically push out the data to the downstream systems, right? Very good way of doing things, centralized way of doing things, centrally governed processes, but you can imagine the challenges, right? And then the other use cases were the hierarchy management, right? And the master data quality. So everybody wanted to create hierarchies, which I'm going to touch upon it right now, a little bit more on the hierarchies, and the master data quality. So because you had so many systems, you wanted to identify what is the data profiling, how the data quality looks like, what are the changes which I could do across the systems to make the data quality right. So you can think about this from a governance point of view. It was a passive form of governance. Because your active form of governance, which was the central MDM style, you cannot cater to every scenario, every system in your enterprise, right? So that is where basically your passive way of doing things came into progression, right? And this was basically the data quality monitoring, so that you're monitoring the matrix across your enterprise. So that has been the traditional aspects of doing the scenarios of master data management. So where are we heading from a trend point of view, right? So first and foremost, I'll start with the traditional, basically the hierarchy management, right? So from a traditional hierarchy management, it was and you knew what you're doing, right? It is a hierarchy. It's a parent-child hierarchy. You have to move the nodes. You have to copy the nodes. You have to drag and drop. The scenarios were as complex as spends management for rolling up let's say your D&B hierarchies, or it was like for cost center, profit center, GL accounts, basically rolling up your financial hierarchies. A traditional way, is it needed? Absolutely needed every day, right? But then there are scenarios where actually we SAP created is a complex, deeply nested cross-domain hierarchies. And the scenario basically was you have functional location hierarchy. So location hierarchy could be a 5, 6, 7 layer of the deeply nested location itself, right? So you have a campus, you have a building. Within a building, you've got a room, you've got a block. And within that, under that, the 6th, 7th layer of the hierarchy was the equipment master, right? Where your physical equipment is located. And that equipment master has got a BOM. And you have got multiple BOMs. And then each BOM has got a spare parts, right? So that became a deeply nested hierarchy. So that was a big enrichment and enhancement within the hierarchies use cases where you're going cross-domain, right? Now that said, what customers are what the trends are looking for is doing what-if analysis, right? I want to create a hierarchy. I want to change the hierarchy, but I want to do a what-if. I want to do a simulation. And that simulation is dependent on the transactional data, right? I want to get all the customer data. I want to get all the product details, all the sales orders, purchase orders. Then I want to decide sales quota based on their quarter, based on a salesperson, based on a region. Should I create a sub-region? Should I create a sub-sub-region, or should I merge the regions? And it needs to be dependent on the data which I'm getting, and which is all transactional data, right? So that's where basically we created the solution where you're literally looking at the live data of all your transactional. You create a version of the hierarchy. You move around the hierarchies and the nodes and see the trends. Do you really think it makes sense for your business? And then basically set those hierarchy versions and set those hierarchy into your environment, right? So this is basically a scenario where you do a what-if scenarios. You do a movement of the nodes based on your criteria, based on your real transactional data, and then create those hierarchies. right? And it's purely built on your live data, driven on that transactional data, right? So these are what if scenarios. That's one of the trends which we are seeing a lot of customers asking about this. Yeah, so that was one of the trends. The second trend is all about machine learning, right? I mentioned about some of those scenarios. Within SAP, there are tons and tons of master data scenarios of machine learning, right? I'll give you an example. You want to basically do a document parsing and and then get the master data out. You want to classify a document. That's a predefined algorithm so that automatically you can classify a document. You have the data, product master data coming in, and you want to classify a commodity code automatically, right? So that's another scenario. But one of the best scenarios which I liked is embedding that data quality machine learning algorithm inside your environment, inside your master data, where you can mine the data, you can identify the data quality, and you can generate the business rule. And that business rule basically drives what is the impact of your real master data, which is tied to your transactional data, right? And what I mean by this, I'll give you a few examples and then we'll talk about this, yeah? So again, as I mentioned, it's all about your master data is all about your impact to your business process, your business outcomes, right? So you have user does an inventory search as an end user, right? That's your master data. But they do an inventory search for their master data, what they are unable to identify that document, right? And if they don't identify, they will create a new purchase requisition, says, I didn't find it, let me go create one, right? So they go ahead and go create another one, which means now you've got duplicate master data, duplicate inventory, and there's a huge impact, right? In addition to that, there is an impact to your maintenance of your production environment, unplanned downtime. You've got a basically downstream impact. These are one of those scenarios where the master data is core to the foundation, right? I'll give you another set of examples. Within our ERP systems, right? And be it any other ERP systems, there are 1,400 attributes of master data. Each attribute is critical. You cannot govern every attribute of the master data. The data steward would basically drag themselves down if you were to create a governance process for every attribute of your master data. But guess what? Everything is interdependent, right? For an accounting view, a valuation class, which is a material level valuation, is very critical if somebody wants to be in an accounting department, right? Be it your plant extension, which is one attribute related to material status, right? Do you want to block it? And that is dependent for other views, set of views. What do you want to do for the other set of the data set, right? How do you want to run your ERP system? And another example, which is not listed here, is which we find many times is you've created a product master and you've shipped a product. There's an attribute, simple attribute called profit center, right? If you do not fill in the profit center, and guess what? If the product shipped, you cannot close the books for your quarter. And somebody is scrambling at the quarter end. This is why those accountants, poor guys, basically spend their time and energy to say, well, let me go update and manually do things. So how's the best way to progress and do a proactive level of the governance, right? This is where this data quality rule mining comes into play. What this rule mining machine learning algorithm does is it will go mine your master data together with transactional data. You have to specify. Once you've done it, it will go scan all the database records and then suggest your rule that based on certain criteria, then this rule needs to be valid. You have to activate it based on this. You get all those records out that this is the bad quality of your master data. Go fix it. And this is a dashboard. You can basically introduce it as a part of your governance process where you can do a regular proactive governance aspects of it. So that's one critical aspect where the trends is how can I proactively govern it? How can I use machine learning to make this impact? Because it is just not about master data, it's master data together with your transactional data. Again, tie this to your business outcome. Yeah. The next trend is the data quality management dashboard for your C-suite. Right? That's very important. In fact, one of these customers, this is a dashboard from one of our customers, Dollar. Right? They literally invested their time to start working towards building those dashboards. This is very important. What is that impact of that master data to your end user. Because if you cannot close the books, it is not just going to a lower level accounting department, it is going to your CFO. You're better off giving those dashboards and thereby actually getting more better funding for even your projects, right? So this is a very important trend which people are looking at it, that how can I provide them larger visibility through the leadership, not just at a CDO or CIO level, but much more higher. So this was basically a dashboard where everybody can view and look at it and the impact on the overall business outcome. Yeah. So that's basically one of the customers, Dollar, out of Europe, did that. So they have, and you can literally drill down the details and go into the level of the detail, what is the impact and what's happening. Okay. The next aspect is when I mentioned about like central governance where it became too monolithic, right? Everybody wanted. This is one of the use cases where there is now basically the goal is to decentralize, right? So, but you want to still be able to govern it, right? And because there are multiple systems. You may have a non-SAP system, or you may have an SAP system. You may have, let's say, an Ariba supplier system where you want to maintain it decentrally. You want to create, let's say, a business partner in a decentralized application, but still want to be able to govern it, right? You want to still be able to enrich and validate because those tax information or any of those information are still valid. So it's basically catering to every line of business, you can say your customer, right? So you're not centralizing and saying, hey, you will do this in one central system, but more onto a decentralized catering to a line of business, right? You want to be able to deduplicate upfront effectively within those decentralized systems, right? And then eventually approve it and send it over. So decentralized meaning no central operating, right? Individual domain level based on business function, right? Or your lines of business, right? So it's basically making it modularized, right? As I mentioned, to bring in that agility, bring in the speed that you don't have to wait for a central governance team to introduce that as a one monolithic central governance environment, but be able to agile and also fulfill your country needs, yeah, your compliance needs, right? You can comply based on your geographic location. You don't want to send the data out to another country. That also allows you to have this kind of an environment, yeah. So in net summary, the goal has been that you want to be able to say you have systems that are under centralized or decentralized control. You want to run through the governance across your lines of businesses, right? Be it procurement or customer or finance or production or any other lines of businesses, right? You want to still be able to consolidate because that's still table stakes, as I said, right? You want to have that data quality aspects of the machine learning. So every one of those lines of business, they would want to have that data quality machine learning algorithm running because they still want to check that data, their own data quality based on their own transactional data, right? And then you will have some systems which will not be part of the governance systems, which could be legacy or the reporting or your business networks, right? So this has been basically the general approaches from the master data point of view. So far, these were the scenarios which we further expanded, right? Now that said, there is another trend which has been going on, right? Where does data fabric and data mesh sits, right? Everybody's talking data fabric, data mesh, right? And how does it impact the master data? I'm not going to go speak on the full what is data fabric, data mesh, right? But data mesh is giving you an overarching process, right? Overarching distributed and decentralized data management, right? Not necessarily master data. Master data is just one other thing, right? From a data fabric point of view, that it does provide you that consistent and standardized capabilities across your environment, right? Be it the on-premise or be it the cloud environment, right? Now within data fabric, right? They have the same aim to enable the master data across your enterprise, right? Through that process, they introduced the concept of the data hub, right? So the data hub is more of a logical view across your enterprise, where your master data could bring in that logical view across your enterprise, right? So that is providing some aspects of across your enterprise, but that does not necessarily provide a governance process, right? It just provides a good view of it, what is across your enterprise, right? So from that point of view, yes, data fabric related aspects, it is providing some flexibility, it is providing the agility, and providing some best of the breed aspects of the centralized and decentralized approach, but it doesn't necessarily provide you the governance process. And this is what leads to the next trend which is going on, is related to the federated governance, right? What is federated data governance, right? So this is what we are going to look into it, right? So before I start into the federated governance, so from the point of view of overall master data management, you have the consolidation, you have data quality management, you have centralized management, yeah? You want to focus on the automation aspects, like how do you want to basically have that data quality going on a regular basis, yeah? You want to have that digitization, so anything which is basically coming from a high quality master data that is from a digital business point of view, large volumes of the data, and it could be in the cloud, it could be on premise, it could be shared across your enterprise, right? So the federalization or the modularization increases the next level of the agility, right? And it introduces that governance which is kind of missing from the data hub aspects of it, right? So we're going to touch on the federation now, yeah? Okay. So from a federation, basically the concept comes like, okay, what do you do in the central and what do you do in the federation, right? In central, you created one single master data, corporate master data, and then once you create one corporate master data, you will send over that master data to govern in each lines of business. Let's call it unit 1, unit 2, unit 3. You may govern it, you may not govern it. You can assume whatever you can assume whether from a governance of those each units you have it or not, right? But from a federation point of view, you are managing the core master data centrally, right? And I mean, it's the core master data. It could be a very subset of the master data which is being used across all your units, which ties all your decentralized solutions across your enterprise, right? So that's the first aspect of it. So you're governing that federated master data or a very subset or a superset of all your units within your corporate environment. And then you are leaving those each units to have them govern themselves what they want to govern for each lines of business. So that doesn't mean that they may govern it or they may not govern it. You can put in the governance processes within each of those units, but then you are very much governing the core superset of your master data. So that's your federated governance. That introduces that yes, you have one unified language of those attributes you are speaking to, right? You have one way of doing things across your enterprise, that if there is a one business partner, that same business partner is the same business partner across all your units. Yeah. They may be governing additional attributes. One may be doing some parts of the accounting view, one may be doing the procurement, one may be doing the sales part of it, right? So you're decentralizing their processes, their approach. You're not stopping anyone else, yeah? So in that context, it actually, when this trend started, we started looking into it. It caused one more challenge, right? How do you integrate, right? So this is where we introduced a one domain model, right? Those superset of the attributes, we said it needs to be, we need to define what are those superset. You can yourself define yourself, but we took on ourselves to define a superset and created that vision that there needs to be one superset across your enterprise. And that is, we call that as a one domain model. And out of that one domain model, we define the language of the applications, what they can use, because now you need to be able to integrate. We needed to make sure that the integration doesn't impact a lot of implementation time. So we need to be able to provide, if I go back, we need to be able to provide back the integrations to these units, at least for those superset of that master data, right? So we basically did that based on this one domain model. We created master data integration as a part of that solution. So this leads to your not just your governance aspects, that you can do a centralized governance, you can do a decentralized governance, you can do a federated governance, right? It is bringing in the agility, but you want to make sure you bring in the speed of integration. You want to make sure that they speak the same language. And this was something which has been introduced as a master data integration. It's based on that superset, one domain model. That is something which you need to think about, that how do you integrate? Because at the end of the day, it's about your end-to-end business process, right? It is impacting your business process across your enterprise. Yeah? Okay. All right. So from that point of view, just to summarize, you have centrally managed. So this is what our portfolio is starting to evolve, right? We had this centralized managed enterprise master data governance. You had centralized managed master data governance, which is basically the federation aspect of it. Or you could have a local governance processes. So we are supporting basically all aspects of the governance. But in addition to that, of course, we are supporting the consolidation. The machine learning, rule mining aspects also are being supported by each one of those. Basically, you can say the deployment options. So what we started doing is, as the trends progress, we want to have that one unified code line, one unified product line. You choose how you want to deploy. You choose how you leverage. And that brings in consistency, but also introduce the integration aspects of it, a predefined integration aspects of it, so that you don't invest much time on the integration aspects of it, right? So this is where basically the end-to-end thought process, when we discuss with our customers, this is what they wanted it as an end-to-end scenario, as an end-to-end solution. Yeah. Now, and this is where we started moving over onto the federated environment also, right? Now that said, from a summary point of view, right, of course, focus on your key multi-domain, right? So your multi-domain would mean based on your business outcome, right? You can't basically start all again, yeah. Centralized does offer you the maximum controls, but it doesn't provide you flexibility, right? Decentralized offers you a lot of flexibility, but local control, there's not much of governance processes, right? You can set the trend, you can set the stage, but you do not know, right? The data quality management offers you that embedded machine learning rules to keep the data consistent and the clean based on your transactional data. It's just not that master data, right? It's just based on your transactional data, right? Federated models brings in that balance between the central and the decentralized, right? Within the federated governance, the most important another aspect is that you can define the ownership, right? I own these 5 attributes, and these lines of businesses will own those another set of 10 attributes, right? So you can introduce that ownership and drive that master data management based on the ownership, right? It could be across your domains. You can decide which federated model, what you want to do with, right? And then focus also on the integration aspects of those master data. How much time does it take for your integrations? Because once you introduce that federation, that's your superset. You need to be able to integrate that superset seamlessly, right? That's critical. We've seen a lot of challenges. That was the biggest reason we introduced that across the enterprise, right? And then also there are other aspects related to the data providers, right? Of course, you do those address checks, CDOIQ, DNB, the classification data. For product master, the classification data is very critical because one attribute change across millions of attributes changes a new record, probably a new material master or a new BOM, right? So we call that as a classification data within product master, right? So those data provider integrations to keep the master data right in your either centralized, federated, or decentralized environments, you still need to keep that in mind. I call it basically a sidecar scenario where you need to make sure you attach or have that integrations doing all of those scenarios or those pop-ups like address checks or these classifications, right? And then the hierarchy management, right? Not to forget about the hierarchy management. How do you manage those standard hierarchies, but also what-if scenarios? Give the flexibility to your business to do a what-if scenarios, make those business decisions, right? So that's all I had. Thank you.
All right, so we have some time for some question and answer. So if you have questions, please raise your hand. I will start with a question from online. What impact does the increasing adoption of data as a service and cloud-based solutions have on the future of master data management?
Okay. Yeah, actually, so 2 pointers. I think data as a service and cloud, right? Cloud definitely is giving you the flexibility, right? So cloud is the way to go, I would say, because it removes away the mundane task, right? But from a data as a service, I see a lot of vendors calling themselves master data vendors also, that we are as a data service. My perspective is data as a service is truly the data. Am I calling up an API to manage that data, right? It may be as simple as that address directory check. Can I make an API call? That is a data as a service, right? Can I make a DNB as a call? That's an API as a data as a. Am I giving really as a data as a service, as an API callable to make the integration much more quicker and faster, rather than dumping the data, loading the data, and doing all 9 yards of the work to achieve my master data management? So that data as a service, if truly it is a data related stuff, yes, it's a big impact. It brings in agility, it brings in the speed. I think that is going to change, and that is going to increase a lot. Life sciences, I see quite a lot. There are a lot of startups who are doing this, but yeah.
So you had talked about being able to centrally manage certain attributes, but allow the flexibility for other attributes to be managed. And I think that it's great that you can sort of enforce that in the technology, but that sort of governance, a lot of the issues evolve around how do you decide which are centrally managed and which you allow flexibility to the individual business units or whoever. Have you seen any best practices from customers in how they manage that sort of coming to a decision piece?
Yeah, so at least from our point of view, we've taken those inputs from the customers, where we are providing predefined data models for federated and for decentralized scenarios, right? But then again, it will be dependent on each of the customers where they can expand further. This is where the flexibility of the data model will need to come in, but we are going to provide the predefined domains or data models for, let's call it, the federated environment, right?
Does that federation extend to other aspects of data governance, and how does that correlate to the master data side of things?
So the federation is in the context of master data management, right? Mm-hmm. So you are federating, basically having the superset of all that master data. So let's call it as a business partner. Business partner may have, let's call it maybe 500 attributes, right, across your supplier or your customer master or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. You are managing the higher level abstract, maybe 10% or 20% or 30% of your data set, which is the superset as a part of the federation. You're governing those, let's call it name and address, as simple as that for a minute, right? There may be many more attributes. That is something which you're governing. Those are the core minimal viable requirement for the other decentralized environments, be it under governance or be it under non-governance. They are needed to be governed, right? Those are the core to running your business, which will impact your business, right? So this is where your federation governance would come into play.
Okay. Other questions, Nora?
Hey, Kiran from Sanofi. So when you build this sort of system agnostic hierarchy, right, for MDM, how are you seeing the migration of this hierarchy across the landscape? If you have, like, let's say, legacy systems, or you're building multiple systems across your landscape, how do you ensure this system agnostic hierarchy is complied across the board? Because that's one of the pain points we deal with. Yeah. So I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, so all I can say is bring in my implementation aspects, right? Legacy systems, loading legacy system data with the newer set of data many times becomes challenging. It depends on your legacy system, right? So this is where you need to introduce the versioning. This is where you bring in the versioning and do your what-if analysis. Now, based on that, the question becomes is, can you load that data into legacy? The answer is either yes or a no. It's very hard to specify. Like I can give you for an example, you can't change the name of a person even if you have changed the name of a person because you have an order already, which is a very much a compliant document that you have to ship the order to that person. Even the first name has become last name and last name has become first name. Guess what? It's an order based on a last name and a first name. So the question becomes is, can you change it? Yes, sure you can change it, but do you really want to change it? That becomes the question. So from your hierarchy question point of view, is your legacy system allowing you to load the data? Does you'll end up creating a custom work? I'm not a believer of doing custom work, which comes and bites you more as a technical debt again, right? So I'll prefer going to a standard approach and trying to progress onto what I can achieve from a business outcome point of view. So I do not know if I answered your question, but legacy environment would be always challenging. It depends on every scenario.
Another question from online. What's the typical timeline to implement MDG for a medium to large enterprise?
Oh, wow. Harder question. I mean, I don't want to say it depends, but it is depending. But it's like, it's like you want to do a centralized governance, you want to do business partner, how much changes you want to do, right? I can tell you for a fact that for our S/4HANA implementations, right, our ERP implementations, a lot of customers are using MDG. They are doing a very thinned down versions of the governance implementation. That's a couple of months. And the reason they are doing a couple of months is because they are introducing the basic master data governance, turning on the knobs. And as you progress and as you mature as a governance organization, you can take your life for 10 years to start building many more complex processes and workflows and whatever you want to do, right? So I would say it takes anything from a couple of months to 4 to 6 months, right? That's the standard approach, but it's an ongoing journey. Governance is an ongoing journey, right? That is also one of the reasons that there are customers or there are partners, and including us, SAP, are providing those starter packages. Turn on the knobs, activate it, use the basic master data quality, turn on the machine learning rule mining, right? It introducing the basic form of the governance, introduce the workflows where you think it's basically impacting a small set of users. Don't overachieve all your complex workflow processes. And as you mature, you start doing it. Yeah. So again, difficult question, but I hope I gave the context.
Sure. Other questions?
So you talked about all of the 1,400 elements in ERP. So there's a lot of talk about master data in operational systems. And then when do you need a master data management capability, technology for that consolidation, enrichment, ID management? How do you talk about that and where is that going?
So what from an SAP point of view, we have embedded all of this inside inside literally a transactional environment if you want it. You choose whether you want to separate it out as a consolidation environment. You choose you want a consolidation environment within your transactional environment. You choose whether you want it in a line of business and govern it as a federated and do it. We're providing that same line of the code to choose as a deployment option, right? Rather than for this you use this product and for this you choose how you would want to deploy it, because every scenario, every customer will be different. Every line of business may have a different answer for that. Yeah.
Other questions in the room? No? I'll go back to online. What's the socio-technical models that are working for master data management?
Oh.
Glad you're answering this
very
one, not
open.
me.
I don't know where to even start. I mean, it's a complex one. I think the first thing comes to my mind is the privacy, the compliance. That is itself driving that, right? Legal regulations is driving a lot of it. But then there are other aspects of it. If you look in a daily trend, if you do shopping, online shopping, you see a bunch of advertisements, you see a bunch of data points which is coming in from the product which you do not even want it. So there are concepts of like seasons, segmentations, based on your liking, your profiles, right? Again, you do an opt-in, but guess what? You're opting in once you are in. That's my opinion. So it's like based on those trends, based on your personal profiling, right? This is what is driving those master data. So in traditionally, like those segmentations or the seasons were not part of the master data, but guess what? They are part of the master data. They are driving those profiles. They are driving your churn, what you want to do, and whether you can sell even your product. And it's just not about the people. It's about, can you sell that product, candies, Easter candies in November? It's like, maybe not, right? So those are driving those seasons, right, based on that, right? So it's a major impact. I would say that is driving the master data, but it's in a much more bigger way.
Another question from online. Could you please elaborate a little bit more on the federation in the deployment options?
Repeat the question.
Could you please elaborate a little bit more the federation in the deployment options?
So federation, basically you would want to say, maybe let me start with the central governance. In the central governance, you have got this one large governance environment, right? Now, this is what you've deployed. You may have deployed it as a central one system, let's call it, as a master data management. Within a federated environment, you are basically having one smaller environment, which is a federated environment. You're picking, let's say, a subset of those attributes as an environment, and then you are basically integrating that federated governed environment to all your other systems. Now, those other systems may be governed or may not be governed from a deployment point of view, but you're deploying only one small subset of the governance that you will govern, and let's call it only 20 attributes or 40 attributes or 50 attributes in that federated environment in one centralized environment. So don't think about that you have to manage those 400 attributes.
Any other questions here? No. And I think we've covered most of the other ones online, so I guess with that, we will go say thank you so much for this great session. And
Thank you.
Vikas.
Thank you.